and she's talking about the world is ready and the children are waiting. Now, Eva encourages you to ask questions inside the chat or unmute yourself because she loves interaction, and she's been doing this for a little while now, so there's not much you can throw at her that she doesn't know about. So take it away, Eva.
Thank you so much. It is such an honor and a privilege to be here. And this is the first time I've had the opportunity to speak directly to Aussies. So I am so excited about this. And I look forward to asking me questions. So feel free to ask questions throughout this entire presentation. As my name is Eva Goulette, as you heard at the very beginning, and I am the founder of Dancing Jaguar Inspirations. It's a company that was founded about 6 years ago in the US, and its main mission is to support children in discovering that they are made up of mind, body, and spirit. I don't know what it's like where you live, but where I live, it's the spirit essence, that part of us that is unlike anyone else on this planet, that part is not nurtured in my society. And it becomes really challenging when you see a society and educational system that is really focused on nurturing the brains and the bodies of children and completely ignoring that whole aspect of the essence of who we are, our spirit. So Dancing Jaguar Spirit Camp came about to focus on that part of children, and so we can help them develop and grow into well-rounded, healthy individuals who understand that beautiful balance between mind, body, and spirit. And also a really foundational part of our teachings is that they learn how to connect and be with nature in a different way than children are brought up here to. We really help them connect energetically to the natural world, so they feel the energy of the trees and the boulders and the rocks, and they understand our interconnectedness to everything. So I'd like to go back for a little bit and tell you a little bit about how I got here and why I'm so passionate about this. I've always loved working with children. And many years ago, it's probably been 2 decades now, I was actually working as an event coordinator at Disneyland in Southern California, and I was involved in a head-on car crash. And I suffered a traumatic brain injury, and I needed to move back to Maine, which is on the other side of the country, to live with my family. So it was about 9 years before I lived on my own again after that accident. And through that journey, I started getting downloads of information at 3:20 in the morning. It was always the exact same time. And it was about this really cool stuff about spirituality and metaphysical stuff, but it was presented to me in such a way that it was really fun and playful and childlike. And over time, I started realizing that I was being given information and new ways to work with children. And over time, I started receiving messages with the information I was downloading. And I was asked if I would be the voice and the face of this work for the children of the planet, because we can change the entire consciousness of our planet if we can have enough children now understand their essence, the connection between their mind, body, and spirit. And that in 20 years' time, if we just start with the children, we can really change the trajectory that our planet is on. So I wholeheartedly agreed to the mission I was being asked to sign up for. And then I was asked to just have the courage to walk through the doors that spirit would open for me. And that's the path that I'm on now. I've been on this path for 6 years, and I feel honored and blessed that I have been asked to bring this new way of working and supporting children, working with and supporting children, to people around the world. And I'd like to share a few stories with how this this new way of working with children supports them and impacts their lives. There's so many stories I'm going to be sharing with you tonight. I'm going to pick one that is about chakras. On the second day of our metaphysical summer camp, that's called Spirit Camp, we spend the entire day learning about energy and learning about the chakra centers and the 7 chakras in our bodies. And the children learn like how they impact their lives, what their names are, how to open them if there are blocks in their energy centers, how to close themselves off and protect themselves when they are feeling vulnerable or scared. They learn how to use pendulums and dowsing rods and gemstones and crystals. This is all in one day. It's a really fun, interactive, playful day for them. And it leaves them with a thirst for wanting to know more, because this is really fun stuff. And they can see how working with energy shifts the way they feel. So one day, my friend, whose daughter is 5 years old, went to Spirit Camp before she started kindergarten. And months later, the mom emailed me and said that she had come home from work that day completely exhausted. And her little 5-year-old daughter came up to her and said, "Mom, would you like me to align your chakras for you before dinner? I think it would make you feel better." And she realized in that moment that, I mean, not only was she impressed that her daughter knew how to, check her chakras and help balance them and help her feel better before dinner, but she said in that moment, she realized that her 5-year-old daughter has the ability to become a partner in the holistic well-being of the family because of the tools she had learned, the knowledge she had gained, and her ability to take that information that she learned and pull it out of her spirit toolbox when she saw someone around her who needed help. So not only do kids get empowered with this wisdom and knowledge and these tools to be able to self-nurture, but they also have the ability to start nurturing and supporting the people around them. And that is so huge. I mean, it takes a village to raise a child, but it also, that child, when she's empowered with wisdom and knowledge and tools, can participate in the well-being of the entire village. And I think that that is taking our humanity and our relationships with each other to a whole nother level. And there's another story about a child who was having difficulty finding her power animal. Now, our third day in this program is spent where the children learn how to do shamanic journeying, and they learn how to find their power animal, which is like a spirit helper that has come to earth with them to support them in this lifetime. And this is like the number one favorite thing that kids do at Spirit Camp. And anyway, this 8-year-old girl was having some difficulties finding her power animal. And I asked if she would like me to do a journey on her behalf. And I offered to do that for her. I just saw a low battery thing on my phone. Darn it. So anyway, I did a journey on her behalf, and I found starfish for her. And that was really unusual for me because I had never found a starfish for anyone before. And I asked my spirit helpers why starfish was so important for this child. And I was told that when a starfish loses one of its appendages, it will grow back. And this child was experiencing a lot of emotional trauma, and she needed the medicine of starfish to really help her heal. So I've kind of tried to figure out how am I going to say that to an 8-year-old. But when I did, she started crying these sobbing these tears of joy. She kept patting her cheeks and going, oh my God, this is so incredible. Oh my God, you have no idea how much this means to me. And in time, she settled down. I gave plenty of space for her to share more, but she wasn't willing to. So of course I honored that. But when her dad came to pick her up later that day, I felt like it was really important to share with him what had happened. And he said that he understood the importance of that for her. And he shared with me that she was starting to have really strong feelings because she felt like she was a boy trapped in a girl's body. And she was really struggling with that. And he said, what you just did is you gave her hope. And I said, I didn't do anything. This is all spirit. Spirit is working through me, through her. This is her spirit animal that came with her to support her in this lifetime. So it became a really big deal for that family to understand that this child has a spirit connection to this helper, this starfish that is here to support her as she walks on this path that she's on, with her gender identity. And the father was so touched by the impact that day had on his child that he and his wife opted to bring starfish into her bedroom theme. So she would always remember that she has the ability to heal and she's going to be okay. And it really changed everything for this child. So one of the things that I like to share with people when I talk about doing this type of work with children is that they're ready for it. They want it. These are simple, simple tools that we share with children. As adults on spiritual paths, many of us use these tools in our daily lives. Why can't we be sharing these with children? Because they support them so much in everything that they're dealing with in life right now. And I'm going to walk with you for just a moment while I grab my phone charger because I had to switch from my computer to my phone at the very last minute and I have to plug in.
I think also that we don't give children enough credit sometimes when it comes to spiritual stuff. Like, you know,
Mm-hmm.
even like I'm a supervisor for Australian therapists, so we need to have supervision if we want to keep our clinical status. And you know, I get one thing. I get a lot of people who come for supervision. They're like, "Oh, can I do past life with a child?" It's like, absolutely you can, because past life can be yesterday or a year ago. It doesn't
Mm-hmm.
necessarily have to be back any further than that if that's what they're struggling with at the time. And I think sometimes we don't give them enough credit when it comes to their intelligence to absorb information about things they can't actually touch and feel and all that
Mm-hmm.
sort of stuff. So yeah, thank you.
I want to turn my phone because my plug is on the bottom. You tell me if I have to go back. Is this okay if I have to go back? Oops. Here, I'm going to go back. That's better. Okay, I'll just hold the phone. I'm
Rewind.
so sorry. I'll just
You're all
hold the
right.
phone. Well, okay. So one of the things that I've noticed as we're moving through and maybe hopefully beyond COVID is that I really feel like there's a shift in the collective consciousness of children. I don't know if you guys see it where you live, but holy cow, do I see it here. And I see that when I'm working with groups of children, there is more fear, more anxiety, more insecurity, more lack of trust when we're going to do an exercise. And I would just be curious to learn if that's something that you guys experience there. But it is something that I feel needs to be addressed by those of us who work with children to be able to provide them with more support as the world is shifting right now. Like there are so many things children are dealing with. And I find that the more I can address some of their needs by providing them with more tools and wisdom and knowledge, I feel like the better they're going to be able to meet all of these challenges and face them head on, because they have tools to be able to support themselves as they're moving through them. So I just did a talk today with a group of people at the event center I'm at, where we were talking about how vulnerable children feel when they go into new places, or are going into a place where they don't have any friends, they don't really know anyone. And we talked about the importance of teaching children how to shield themselves. And I do this really fun exercise with children that I'm holding my phone, so I can't do with you, but I'm going to describe it to you. And let's see if you can play along with me and see if I were on a podcast and you couldn't see me and you could only hear me, could you figure out what I'm saying here? I stand face to face with the children, and I tell them that we're going to do an exercise where I'm going to impact their chakras, speaking negatively to them. And then I muscle test them to see how their body was impacted by that energy. And then let me just do that first. So I'm going to set it up as if we were in a studio right now, face to face. And I want you to just imagine that we were all standing together in spirit camp, and we were all supposed to wear purple clothes today. So I tell the kids that I'm going to, my partner, that I'm going to say critical things about that child because they forgot to wear purple clothes. So I'm going to pretend that you're my partner. Hey, you know what? Today is a purple day at Spirit Camp, and you are supposed to be wearing everything purple. Our whole team is supposed to be dressed up in purple today, and we're supposed to have purple shoes, purple pants, purple socks, purple hat. Everything is supposed to be purple, and you've ruined it for our whole team. We're not going to be able to get through this today. You've ruined it for all of us. And then I muscle test the child to see how her body responds to that negative energy that is coming straight at her. And when I muscle test someone, I put my arm out to the side like this, and I push down on it. And if it's resistant, it's testing positive. And if it just falls down with the pressure of me pushing it down, then it just it's a negative response. So when I do that with children, I blast them with this negative energy and I try to push their arm down. It just falls down. There's no resistance whatsoever. And then I tell them that I want them to imagine that they have a winter coat on, a really long winter coat goes down to their knees, and they're going to zip it up, and it's going to go all the way up to the top of their head. And then I'm going to repeat that critical statement that I just did earlier. So again, you're supposed to be wearing purple today. You're supposed to have purple shoes, purple hat, purple coat. Everything is supposed to be purple. You don't have anything purple on, and you've ruined it for all of us today. And then I muscle test the child again, and the child's arm is completely resistant to me trying to push the arm down. And the kids at that point get really excited because all of a sudden they have a tool they can use when they're going into a situation where they feel vulnerable. Kids don't usually have tools that they can use in a situation like that. They just want somebody to be with them. So once I have completed that with the children, then I ask them to unzip their chakras because they're safe in the environment that I'm in with them. And then I always want to finish that up by telling them that I love them. I'm so happy that they're there, and kind of give them lots of good energy to just finish off that whole module. But just that simple act of learning how to zip up their chakras is so impactful for kids, because there was another little 5-year-old I'll tell you a story about, who, after she went to Spirit Camp, she started going to school full days and on the bus. So it was a gigantic change for her. And one day at lunch, she was really upset because she missed her mom, and she started crying, and the kids in her class started poking fun of her. And when she got home and was relaying that story to her mom, her mom was brokenhearted, but then said, "Well, how did you handle that?" And she was like, "Mom, I was fine. I know how to shield myself. I zipped up my chakras." So every day after that, when that child went to the bus stop, she intentionally zipped up her chakras to go to school. And when she got off the school bus at the end of the day, she unzipped her chakras, knowing that, she was safe and secure and able to just be who she was when she was home with her mom and dad. But I think the important part here to share with people everywhere around the world is that I know how to shield myself as an adult. The zipping up the chakras way was just a really fun way that came to me to teach it to children. But I shield myself when I'm going into large crowds, when I'm going into a crowded shopping mall, if I'm going into to a concert or something like that. I shield myself because I'm really sensitive to energy. We could be teaching that to children everywhere because so many children are being born super, super sensitive, and they need this kind of support. So I want to talk a little bit now about like some of the other curriculum that I think is really important to share with kids. So when they learned how to work with their power animal, they were learning how to work with spirit helpers. That became a really important thing for many children because they all of a sudden felt like they weren't alone, even when they appeared to be alone. So there are some kids who have been to spirit camp who were really anxious children, very fearful. And when they weren't with their mom or someone they felt really safe with, they were really a wreck. And it was very debilitating for some of them. And all of a sudden, these children started understanding that they had a spirit helper who was always with them. And all they had to do was ask for their help. And they had this spiritual protection that could surround them. So we just talked about the fact that we're teaching kids how to protect themselves energetically. And now we're also sharing with them spiritual protection. So I don't know what it's like where you live, but where I live, that's not stuff that's normally taught to kids. So I'm going to share a couple of stories with you about children and their power animals to show you how much children are comforted and soothed by working with spirit helpers. So this child was about 7 and loved her power animal, loved going to spirit camp. And she lives in my local community. So about once a month, I would do follow-up spirit camp classes for those local kids who went to spirit camp, just to kind of keep it fresh in their mind. I knew this girl knew her power animal very well and had a great relationship with it. So one day her mom called me and said that a relative had recently passed away in their sleep, and that this child, who was very anxious to begin with, was not able to go to sleep at night because all of a sudden she was afraid she was going to pass away in her sleep. So the mom asked if there were any suggestions I had to help this child through this. And the first thing I went to was her power animal. So I said, well, when it's time for lights out, why don't you bring the rattles that she created in spirit camp, bring them out, have her rattle and call in the essence of her power animal and ask it to stay at the foot of her bed to watch over her overnight. And then in the morning, wake her up. That power animal would have the responsibility of waking her up. So I had forgotten that this child's power animal was an owl because I work with hundreds of children and I can't remember all of them. But it makes perfect sense because as a nocturnal animal, of course, her owl would be there awake, keeping her safe through the entire night. So anyway, the little girl on the first night brought out her rattles, called in her owl. She loved her owl. And the mom said as soon as she did that, and she asked her owl to watch over her and wake her up in the morning, she just turned over and went right to sleep. It was like she took all of that anxiety and all of that fear and stress that was in her little body, and she just handed it over to her power animal, and it was completely over and done with. So now when I do work with parents and parent workshops and stuff, I share stories like this because the children's power animals are very, very important to them. And they can be a tool that parents can call upon when their kids hit a bump in the road. A parent can just ask the child, have you done a journey to your power animal? What do you think your power animal would say about that? So it's opening up another whole layer of support that children can have that they normally don't have. And that is so important to them. And gosh, there are so many stories. I'm trying to Rolodex through them really quickly so I can share another one or two. Are there any questions at this point in time? Let me
Not at this
see.
stage, though.
No. Okay, already. So let's see. Well, let's talk about muscle testing again. There's a way I want you to imagine again that we are standing face to face in a studio together, and we're standing facing each other. Your feet are flat on the floor. And I ask you to put your hands over your abdomen. And I like to close my eyes, and I imagine that I'm going to use my body like a pendulum. And I ask my body if it can tell me what a yes is going to look like. And when I do that, my body naturally rocks forward onto the balls of my feet. And then I come back to center, and you kind of get my focus inward again and ask my body to show me what a no is going to look like. And I instinctively rock back onto my heels. That very simple exercise is so powerful for children because that is the way that I start teaching them that their answers are within, that they can start learning how to trust their intuition. They can listen to their inner wisdom and know that it will never steer them wrong. So we do really playful things like I'll take an orange or an apple and hold it in my hand and ask, is it in my best interest to eat this apple or orange? And I'll watch my body respond, and it's always forward in that response. And then I might pick up a Sharpie or something that's right around me and ask, is it in my best interest to eat the Sharpie that's in my hand? And of course, I'll rock backwards. And then I'll actually use food with the kids as well. I may pick up something edible, something really tasty. It could be the apple or orange again, but then I'll go to something that is just junk food, and my body will respond negatively to the junk food. So I ask the kids to start asking themselves yes, no questions while we're together in this classroom setting. And they get really excited about this because, again, this is giving them more insight into how to show up and be a spirit in a human body and how to be a bundle of energy on this planet. So they get really excited about stuff like this. And I share with them, when you've got friends who are asking you to do something that you might think is not necessarily in your best interest, and you're not really sure if you should do it or not, this is a way that you can always tap into your inner wisdom to find out what is in your highest good. And this is something that kids use all the time once they have learned this tool. So I really encourage parents who are listening, or educators, people who just love to be around children, to share really simple tools like this with them, because it enriches their lives, it empowers them to show up differently in the world, and they show up with more confidence. This shifts something inside of them, because it's not all like all of a sudden um they're showing up in the world and feeling very vulnerable. They have tools that they can use as they're going through life and the world. And when they hit bumps in the road, they have a toolbox. We call it their spirit toolbox, to be able to pull from, to support themselves. And one of the things that I love about this is that this toolbox that they're building, it's a toolbox that will be there for life. These are tools, like I'm in my 60s. These are tools that I still use in my 60s. If we can provide these to children who are in their first decade of life, look at how much support they're going to be able to have as they're going through the various decades of their lives. And I think also that one of the things that is really positive in this is that when children are really connected to the natural world, as they grow up, they are going to become really powerful stewards of the earth. And there's much to be said for this exercise we do, in which children learn how to energetically connect with a tree. Like they've learned how to work with energy in their body, and they've learned how to connect to the energy of a partner in their class. But then when we go outside and they ask permission of a tree to go into its aura, and they wait for the tree's response. Then they ask the tree if they can place their hands on the tree trunk, and they wait for its response. And then they ask if they can place their third eye on the tree trunk. And again, they wait for the response. But then they ask the tree to give them a message that they may be able to take back to the rest of our class. And there have been some really profound messages that young children have received. And one of them is a story of like a 6-year-old who connected to the tree, and afterwards she came up to me and she whispered that that tree asked me if I would protect it because it feels like it's going to get blown over in a windstorm. I don't know what to do. So we're walking away from the tree as she's whispering all of this to me, and I look back. This was a really tall tree, and it was very full, so I couldn't see the whole thing when she was standing under it. As we were walking away from the tree, I looked up, and the whole top third of that tree was dead and very well could blow off in a windstorm. So I am really curious about seeing an entire generation of children growing up, really connecting and understanding that everything in nature is um, is alive and has energy and has spirit, and we can connect to all of that. So the children become very aware of opening up their heart chakra as we're going outside into the natural world. And I like to have them explore what it feels like to go into the woods, listening with our hearts and not with our ears, or seeing with our heart and not with our eyes, to experience the world in a new way from the heart chakra. And it's so wonderful and powerful for me to have children come back and share some of the stories they've experienced when they've been out in the world, in the natural world, and they are aware of things that are happening around them that normally they would not have, that would not have caught their attention at all, had they just gone out there and not taken those few moments in time to really connect and open their heart chakra before we started walking in the paths in the woods. So, excuse me. I think that if we can provide children with experiences like that as they're growing up, and really support them and developed that connection to the natural world, our world will be a completely different place, because these are the kids who are going to make the decisions in 20 years or 30 years about global warming, about how to protect Mother Earth, how to find balance in our planet, and in our relationship with Mother Earth. And I think that there is so much to be said for really developing and nurturing that connection at a really young age. One of the
So,
things we do, go ahead.
Ava, Val is just
Yes.
asking, how would you treat a 10-year-old girl with serious delusional anxiety of not being able to eat as all of her food is poisoned and it seems to be absorbed from a film and has lost lots of weight and refuses to go to school and had to go to a psych ward, a children's psych ward as well? How would you deal with that?
Okay. Well, I'm not a medical professional, so I can't give advice, like any kind of medical advice. But one of the things that I work with children regarding anything energetically is, oh, this is a really good segue into understanding the effects of positive and negative energy on us. Like I showed you the muscle testing and zipping up the chakras to protect ourselves from that negative energy. There's a doctor named Dr. Masaru Emoto who did many experiments on the effects of positive and negative energy on water crystals. And I show pictures of those experiments to the children. And then we reenact some of those experiments when we're together, so they can start seeing the effects of positive and negative energy on themselves. So one of the things that I might think of with this child, and it would take like multiple sessions with this child, of course, but start teaching about energy and how we are all energy. Our energy impacts everything around us. So it, like in those exercises where I'm teaching the children about the thank you, yes, you're absolutely right, I just saw that come up in the chat, where the kids are being taught about Dr. Emoto's experiments. We start playing with energy. I can't hold both of my hands up because I'm holding my phone, but so that children can feel the energy in their hands, feel the tingling in their hands, and we play with it. Pretend that you guys right now are my other hand. So we move our hands in and out a little bit, and we feel the tingling of that. And I can feel a tingling with it right now. And we can sometimes feel like a pulling, like a taffy of the energy between our hands. So then that's when I would introduce the exercise with that picking on the kid for not wearing the right clothes, and how my voice was negatively impacting her because her muscle testing proved very weak when I had said all that negative stuff. And then she learned how to shield herself to protect herself from my negative barrage the second time I did it. And she tested very strongly then. So that's kind of giving kids the confidence and trusting that they're learning how to work with their energy and shield themselves as needed. Then we go on to feeling each other's aura. This is a really long answer to the question, but there's a whole process that I would go through in working with a child like this. So there are exercises we do where we sense each other's aura, our energy field around our bodies, and we get used to feeling what that aura feels like. That connects to when we feel the auras of the tree outside in the natural world. You can continue taking that to our energy impacts everything around us. You can take it to the bottle of water I have on my desk right now, and that I can send really good positive energy through my hands to the bottle of water. So I would do a whole long process with a child that takes her gradually through different phases of learning how she is made up of energy. Everything around her is made up of energy, and we can impact the energy of the things around us with our own energy, so that she starts becoming empowered to feel like if that food is not fit to eat right now, maybe energetically she can do something to alter that energy, and start trusting in her ability to be able to impact um, that food before she eats it. There is a woman by the name of Sandra Ingerman, who is a global shamanic teacher. She's very well known in the world. And she did exercises in some of her shamanic training that she brought in scientists who were actually recording the results of the experiments. She was having the students, oh, thank you. I love her work too. She was having her students do transmutation, which is it's a shamanic technique, but it has to do with finding that source, that God source energy inside you, and using toning and chanting that energy out into the world. Again, it's working with energy. So they did readings on water that was on her altar in her study. Oh, there you go. Thank you. So they did readings on the water that was on her altar, and then over the course of that training program, they would do transmutation, sending the energy to the water. It completely changed the water from the beginning of the training program to the end. And there are, I don't remember where the studies are cited on the internet, but they are cited on the internet. You can actually go in and read how that energy completely shifted the structural integrity of the water in terms of its pollution versus the clarity of it towards the end. And so there's I think for that particular child, I would focus on energy and how we are powerful energetic beings, and we can impact objects around us with our own energy, and just see where that goes. I hope that helps. It was a really long answer to the question, but I could find myself going into all kinds of tangents with it because there are so many different tips and tools that I use with children to help empower them to know that they're in control of so much more than they think they are at their little tiny ages. So thank you for that question. That was really fun to respond to. Are there any other questions right now before I go on? And I'm not even sure where I am on time. Where are we with that?
There's no more questions at the moment, and you've got probably about 2 or 3 minutes.
Okay.
But go nuts.
So, okay. So what I think I'd like to share with you all is that I feel like this message that I keep getting from Spirit, that the world is ready and the children are waiting, is a call to action for me to reach out to as many adults as possible, like all of you that are listening to this right now, to really share the importance of teaching children these spiritual and metaphysical tools to empower them to be the best they can be. Because so many of the adults that I work with had all of these skills and awareness and sensitivities when they were children. And as they were growing up, they stuffed it all down because nobody talked about this stuff. And my goal is to help children know that this is a normal, beautiful part of who we are as human beings. And that if we can help children stay open and really learn how to balance that mind, body, spirit triad, that we are going to have a much healthier world in another 20 years. So I encourage all of you to find ways to support children using simple tools like this, or reach out to me. This is the very first time I've ever connected with people from Australia, and I'm so grateful for this opportunity. So if there's ever an opportunity for me to connect and even do workshops in your time zone, I am happy to do that. So let's just see if we can help support the children in Australia by doing work like this. And thank you, everybody, for paying attention to this message that I'm bringing to you. And I really appreciate your time and your interest in this work.
I think we'll be definitely connecting with Eva in 2023 and seeing what we can do, because the kids of Australia, we're feral, so we need help. Okay. Well, we're feral, like seriously. So yeah. So thank you so much, Eva. We will catch you in the future. If you have any questions, like just before, like, reach out to me. I can pass them on to Eva, or look up her website, Dancing Jaguar, and she has some freebies on there as well to help with guiding children, etc. So please jump on over to that. So up next, you have me and John showing you virtual reality hypnosis and how we're hoping it's so cute. Is this cute? And how we're hoping to help change the future, because can you imagine what it would be like to be getting cancer treatment or dialysis or something like that and be in a world of relaxation to enhance healing? So jump on over. We're going to demonstrate what we've come up with, and you can have a gander and give us some feedback and all that sort of stuff, because I think we're ready to go. So jump on over to that one, and we'll catch you in the future, Eva. See you, darling.
Thank you, sweetheart. Bye-bye.